Hey guys, welcome to your YouTube channel, YourITLearning. If you want to become business analyst but feel confused about where to start, what to learn, and how to get a job, this video is for you. I have combined a complete 7-day business analyst training into one structured course so you don't have to waste time in jumping between videos. In this video, we will go step by step, starting from basics, then moving to requirement gathering, business process modeling, tools, techniques, agile and scrum, and finally real project work, UAT, and then interview preparation. By the end of this video, you will have a clear roadmap of what business analyst actually does and how you can become one. This is not just theory, it is practical guide to help you become job ready. I recommend you follow it step by step without skipping because each section builds on the previous one. So let's get started.
So I talk about what is business analysis is basically identifying business needs and determine solution. So why actually we need business analysts? Because business analyst work is to identify what the business is looking for and determine the solutions or provide them couple of solutions which they can choose from. So how the business analyst does that? Business analyst has to basically understand the strategic goal of the stakeholders, pinpoint problems. Sometimes the problems can be found by the stakeholders and they came to you to get the resolution. If they don't have and they are asking you to analyze, you will pinpoint the problems, inefficiencies, or opportunities for improvement. While doing that one, you have to engage with stakeholders to clarify what are the pain points. So how a business analyst do that? They basically what they does is they set up, schedule a meeting with the stakeholders. They talk to them. They understand what exactly they are looking for. What is the pain point and what kind of resolution or solution, if they have in the mind, they are looking for. So as a business analyst, you will determine solutions, focus on improving process, product, services, or software. So basically, as an overall goal, as a business analyst, you will going to provide a better solution to the stakeholder. What is the definition of business analyst? Uh, a business analyst is a key link. Really focus on these lines. It's a key link between an organization business goals and its technological capabilities. So basically, a business analyst has to understand what the stakeholder or the business needs. They have to gather those requirements, convert it into user stories, bring it to their IT team and get it done. So this is basically what it means by this single line. I will repeat again. A business analyst is a key link between an organization business, stakeholders, goals, and its technological capabilities. They work to identify areas of improvement in processes, system, or services by gathering, analyzing, putting the user into user stories, and communicating insight to stakeholders for informed decision making. So a bridge between business stakeholder and IT, I'm repeating again and again, this is very crucial. Business analyst is basically a bridge between the business stakeholders and IT technological team. They help companies save time, reduce cost, and make informed decisions by ensuring that every change or project aligns with the business objective or the roadmap of an organization. What are the skills needed for a business analyst? Strong analytical and problem solving abilities, excellent communication, interpersonal skills. These are very important. If you are not good at communication, or if you're not, like, you have to improve your communication skills. You have to make sure that how you write an email, how you communicate to the stakeholders, how you make sure that they are well informed. So strong analytical and problem solving ability, excellent communication, interpersonal skills, understanding of business process and IT systems. So what are the key responsibilities of a BA? As I said, understanding business needs, stakeholder needs, understand what exactly they are looking for. What are the pain points? What the stakeholder is looking to solve? Because if they had came to a business analyst, they are looking for a solution for a problem they have. Then once you understand that one, then you have to, as a BA, you have to gather requirements. BA collects and document detailed requirement of a project, ensuring all voices are needs are considered. So they will going to gather all these requirements in a user story. They will bring this user story to the IT team and get it done. Analyzing and solving problems. So business analysts using data and critical thinking, they identify the root cause of issues and propose practical data-driven solutions. So as a BA, I will always say, once you understand the problem of a business or a stakeholder, propose them a couple of options like if they come up to you saying, hey, my website is not having that many members coming and and buying products on my portal, then I understand where they are. Are they in United States, India, where, and what kind of customer base do they have? What kind of member population they have? Maybe they only have English language onto the portal. Make them understand, you have a vast Spanish language Spanish people living in your state. Why don't you put a Spanish conversion on your portal and the website convert into Spanish, so it might be easy for Spanish people speaking people to come to your portal and do the transaction or do the purchase your products. Facilitating communication. So the business analyst act as a translator between technical teams like a developer and the non-technical stakeholders like managers, clients, or business subject matter expert. Validating solutions. After implementation, BA ensures that the solution work as expected and meets business goals. So after you demo and you have delivered the product to the business, you keep on working, you keep on constantly watching that one and see if there's any defects or anything. And that's why whenever you're working as a business analyst, you keep constantly working on the product development, and also you constantly working on making sure that the product is working as expected. Stakeholders, a BA interacts. So what are the stakeholders? Like if you say, we kept on talking about, we gather requirements, gather requirements, bring it to the IT team, get it done. But who we gather the requirements from? So these are the stakeholders, a business analyst interacts, I'm sorry, a business analyst interacts with a wide range of stakeholders throughout a project lifecycle. Each stakeholder plays a unique role, and understanding their needs is crucial for project success. So, who these stakeholders are? It can be a project manager. So, the project manager manages timelines, resources, project scope. So on a high level, whenever you start working on a new project or an old project, you have to connect with the project manager to understand what is the scope of the project. What other things are in scope, out of scope. So the project manager works closely with the BA to ensure alignment between business needs and delivery. A stakeholder can be end user or customer, uh, people who will directly use the product or a system. So at one time I was working in a company, and then I was working with the billing team. So at that time, the end user were the billing team. So was trying to understand to them what are the things they look for. So they had the invoice generating software which they wanted to revamp. So I sat with them, understand what are the things, what are the pain points, what they would like to have on a home page versus on billing, on maybe the payment section, or maybe the checkout, or maybe how, if they want to generate an invoice, do they want to generate an invoice only in PDF, Word document, and all those. So these were the kind of questions I was when I was meeting with them in the meeting, was I was throwing to them and asking these kind of questions. Provide feedback on usability, functionality, and improvements. So these are the end user. Next comes the subject matter expert. Provide deep knowledge of business process or domain. Help the BA understand complex and specialized business requirements. So subject matter expert is someone who already knows this system. So that's why we are called subject matter expert. They are the expert in their product, but now they want some revamp, they want some changes in their system. So they're coming to the business analyst to provide the details, to provide the requirements. So a business analyst can gather those requirements, bring to the technology team and get it done. Next comes the development team engineers. So build the solution based on BA document requirements. Rely on BA for clarification during implementation. So, development team or developers, if they have any questions during the sprint or before the sprint, they always comes to the BA and ask them. Most of the time BA knows this one, and but this is no thing, you can't know everything. In case you don't know anything, get those questions, bring it to the subject matter expert or managers and try to resolve it. Try to find the answer for them. Quality QA, quality assurance testers. So they validate the solution meets requirement, work with the BAs to understand acceptance criteria and test cases. So the test cases are always built from the user story. So if a user story is complete, then only the test cases can be built. But in this case, the QA will going to ask questions, or maybe, at any stage of the development, maybe the developer or QA, they can also come back to you as a stakeholder saying, Jay, I feel that this product might need this thing. Maybe the color doesn't look good or something. So they can also be a stakeholder, and then you take those requirements, you understand, okay, why they are asking for this one, bring it to the stakeholders or subject matter expert and get their approval, and then only start working on that one. At the end of the day, you have to make sure you have approval for everything from the stakeholders, or, there's any stakeholders you are working for, either it's a project manager, end user, subject matter expert. UI UX designer. So these are the people who help you to create the visuals on the portal, the UI frames. They collaborate on designing user interface that meets user needs and the user story. They depend on BA insight from user research and requirement. Operations and supports team, they maintain the system after deployment. So the product is being done. Now the developers or the QA or if you have a special operations or support team, then they will make sure that everything is working fine for the stakeholders or the business. They consult the BA for documentation, training, and change impact. So whenever as a BA, you are getting the requirements, you will write the user stories and everything. But at the end of the day, you will also document all these requirements in one system. Sometimes, company use Confluence, OneDrive, or any kind of documentation place your company is using. You have to create all the documentation, whatever you are working on, doing things over there. So in case someone comes to you or you move on to a new organization, so whoever takes your place, or they can understand what was built. So there won't be any knowledge gap, okay? Compliance legal teams ensures that the solutions adhere to legal, regulatory, and company standards. So, take an example of big companies, like Amazon, Apple. So they have to make sure their website is working properly. They have accurate things on their portal. These big companies are always, at a risk of being sued by anyone. So at that time, whenever you're building anything on these website, if you have anything in your mind, or maybe you're working with healthcare organizations, states, then you have to make sure you get it reviewed from your legal teams as well. So like take an example, if you, on your website you are talking about some specific group, what kind of words you can use for those specific groups, what you can call them, and in a way, you adhere to your company policies. So the legal teams work with the BAs to identify requirements for data privacy, security, etc. So in case like legal teams also comes across the website and they find something which is not accurate or not as per the standards of the company guidelines, then they can come to you, they can provide you the requirements. Then in this case, they will be the stakeholders. Executives, senior management, they focus on strategic outcomes and return on investment. ROI is return on investment. Receive reports and updates from BA on business values and progress. So the BA career path, okay? Like once you start as a BA, what kind of roles you will be doing on, okay? So think about entry level roles. So what kind of titles you will be working on? You might be working as junior business analyst, you might be working as business analyst intern, you might be working as junior business system analyst. So the key focus for any entry level business analyst role is learning BA tools, techniques, supporting senior business analyst, because you will be under a lead BA or a manager BA who will be guiding you what other things need to. You will always be documenting requirements. As I said, whenever you write a user story, you have to document the requirements all the time. You will be attending stakeholders meeting. What will the mid-level roles? The mid-level roles will be business analyst, function analyst, IT business analyst. business system analyst. So the junior term has been taken off now because you are kind of a mid-level roles. The key focus will be again leading requirement gathering sessions. You might be managing medium scale projects. You might be managing more projects, bridging between business and technical teams, working independently on process improvement. So this is the difference between a junior entry level and a mid level, that now you will be working independently. What will be the senior level roles? Some examples are senior business analyst, lead business analyst, product analyst. So the key focus is driving business strategy as per the roadmap of an organization, mentoring junior BAs. So in this case, if you work as an entry level BA, you will be under the senior level BAs who will be mentoring you. Leading complex cross-functional projects, deep involvement in solution designs and designs making. So this will be senior business role will be someone who is already working on in this organization for a couple of years, have a very detailed knowledge. I'm not saying that you can't be a senior role if you join a new organization. You can. For you it will take some time to understand how the product and the system works. Tools used by the BA, documentation and collaboration tools. So you might be using Microsoft Word, Google Docs for writing requirements, meeting notes, use cases. You might be using Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets for data analysis, requirement traceability, and creating matrices. As I said before, if you are gathering requirements and if you want to document it, Confluence is very highly used in most of the organizations. A collaboration workspace for documentation and knowledge sharing. That doesn't mean like if every company has Confluence, but you will have definitely something closer to Confluence, or maybe, Microsoft Word or something, SharePoint, where you can document everything what you are working on. Microsoft Teams and Slack are the communication tools for chat, communication with stakeholders, communication with your team, anyone in your organizations. Modeling and diagram tools. Okay, so there will be some tools which you will going to use for diagrams. So Lucidchart, Draw.io, they are easy to use, create flowchart, process map, and system diagrams. Microsoft Visio is quite widely used to create, diagrams. So for detailed process modeling, UML diagrams, and system designs. So Bizagi Modeler for business process modeling, BPMN. Requirement and project management tools, Jira. So if your company is using Jira, then they will be using Confluence because they are the same product of the same company. I mean, different products of the same company. For managing user stories, sprint, tracking issues, especially in agile projects. Azure DevOps, this is also something similar to Jira. A couple of companies use Jira, some use Azure, Trello. So for requirement tracking, test cases, project planning, sprint. Trello, Asana, Monday.com for task management and team coordinations, Rational Doors, Jama Connect for complex requirement management in enterprise settings. So these are a couple of tools. You might not be using all of them in your career. You might be using all of them, but you will definitely be using one of them. Prototype typing and wireframe tools. This is basically used by UI UX designer. If your organization have those UI UX team, then they will be using Figma, Adobe XD for collaborating UI UX designs and wireframing. So anything you are working on a user story and it needs a diagram or it needs a UI UX design, then you reach out to the UI UX design. So what is the summary of all these slides we have? So the key takeaways are business analysts are problem solvers. They are good communicators and the change agents. So every time a change is coming or a new requirement is coming, so the business analyst helps the stakeholders, business in getting those done with the help of their IT technology team or IT team. Business analysts, the right tools empower better analysis, collaboration, and delivery. So you should be using the right tools, which I have mentioned in my slides. So go over it. You just go over them, use it, Google them, try to understand in detail what they are. For requirement gathering to data analysts, every tool plays a key role. So make sure, I keep on saying this one in my, YouTube videos is like, basically the main goal of a business analyst is to gather the requirements from the business or the stakeholders, write those requirements in the user story. Once the user story is complete, the user stories is brought to the sprint ceremonies or I will say Scrum ceremonies. It starts from sprint refinement, or I will say Scrum refinement, where you bring the user stories, you make it in front of your team, you make them understand what you are trying to do, and you take questions from them. In the sprint refinement, maybe your user story is complete. So then, if a story user is complete, then it's good. It goes to the next Scrum ceremony, which is sprint grooming. If the user story is not complete or developer has some questions, they will go to ask you questions. You might be able to answer them. If you are not, then you have to go to the stakeholders and get those answers and complete the user story. Once the user story is complete, you bring it to sprint grooming. Again, these meetings happens on a weekly basis, or bi-weekly basis. So when you will bring into the grooming call, a week has already happened, people don't remember what you talk about, so you will again discuss about the user story on a high level, and then you will go to story point your user story. Once it's story point is done, then this user story is goes to the product backlog or the sprint backlog, and it sits over there. And then it comes to the sprint planning when it is the right time to do this user story, that you will be told by the project manager or the stakeholders, like when they want this user stories to be done. Once the user story comes to the planning, it comes to the sprint. When the sprint starts, the sprint is always 2 weeks. The user story will be developed by the developer, tested by the QA. If they have any questions, they will come to you. You have to answer them. And once the user story is being done, then you will provide a demo to the stakeholders. Once the stakeholders gives a thumbs up to that, then it means the user story is complete. In any case, if a business says, I'm not little happy with it, I need little bit of improvement in that, then you says, yeah, no problem at all. You again start gathering the requirement for whatever changes they want in that system or with the product. Hey guys, today we are here to talk about Business Analyst Day 2 training, focusing on requirement engineering fundamentals. So let's start. What are requirements? Definition. Requirements are statements that describe what the system, product, or process must do. They represent the need, expectations, or constraints of a stakeholder. What are the types of requirement with examples? Business requirement, for which we have business requirement documents. So this is high level goals of organization. For example, increase customer retention by 20% within the next year. Stakeholder requirements, need of specific stakeholders or groups. So what are the needs of the stakeholders who are asking you to build something? For example, sales team needs a mobile friendly CRM tool to update leads on the go. Third, functional requirement, for which we have functional requirement document. It describes what the system should do. For example, the system must allow users to reset their password via email over one-time password. Non-function requirement, quality expectations or constraint. Example, performance, page must load within 2 seconds. Security, system supports multifunctional authentication. And the third, usability, app should be usable by a technical user. So now talking about characteristic of a good requirement, which is also called SMART. Specific, so S for specific, clearly defined requirements. M for measurable, quantifiable. So like when you create something, you can quantify that. Achievable, like you are creating a user story which is feasible to produce, or a product which is feasible to produce. Relevant, supports business goals or the roadmap. Time bound, has a timeline. So it has a specific timeline that it should be completed by this particular time. So for example, reduce call center average waiting time from 8 minutes to 3 minutes within 6 months. Requirement elicitation techniques. So what are the requirement elicitation techniques you will use to gather the requirements? Interview, one-on-one group discussion. For example, What challenges do you face with the current processes? So when you are doing the requirement elicitation, you will sit with the stakeholders and you will ask these kind of questions in a one-on-one group discussion. Like what challenges do you face with the current process? What are the things you don't like in this current product and you want me to change or produce? What must the new system do for you? We can also have workshops. So workshops are collaborative sessions with multiple stakeholders. Example, conducting a full day business requirement document workshop with IT plus business team. Brainstorming, generating ideas without judgment. So for example, brainstorming features for a new employee onboarding portal. So the stakeholders would like to have a new employee onboarding portal, and now we are brainstorming with the stakeholders what kind of things they would like to have in that. Observation and job shadowing. BA watches end user perform task. Example, sitting with a bank teller to observe how the customer account creation works today. So they are job shadowing just to learn how the process works. Survey questionnaires. Useful when you need response from many users. Example, sending a Google form asking employees what they want to be improved. The last is documentation analysis. So reviewing existing material. For example, current SOPs, user manuals, and legacy system screenshots. So you're reviewing the current documentation to understand, what are the pain points. So what are the things we should work on changing or improving. Requirement documentations. The first is business requirement document, which is called the BRD. It captures business objective and high level requirements. For example, the first will be customers are unable to track orders in real time. The second example will be provide a web and mobile interface for order tracking. The second is function requirement specification or FRD. Detailed system behavior and features. Example, system must send SMS and email notification after order dispatch. Another example will be system must display real-time GPS location of a delivery agent. So think about when you order Domino's pizza, you have a tracker. So something like that. And so if you have a Domino's pizza order, if you have Amazon order, then you can track where your order is. System requirement specification. This combines functional and non-functional requirement for developers, and that includes use cases, data flow diagrams. So you create a flow diagram of how the data will flow, API integrations. You will talk to the stakeholder or you will talk to the architect to understand the API integration. There will be some constraint as well. For example, system should integrate with Google Maps API for location tracking. Requirement management, version control, tracking changes to the requirement. So, when you're working on a requirement document, either function or business requirement document or any kind of document, it's always helpful to track the changes. Okay, so tracking changes to the requirement. BRD version 1.0 is initial requirement. BRD version 1.1 is added chat support feature. Traceability, connecting requirements to design, development, test cases, deployment. So the example will be Jira or Azure DevOps using requirements IDs like REC-1201. So when you will work in the IT industry, you will see traceability metrics like these. Change management, ensuring changes go through a formal approval process. For example, change request like CR-005. So this means this is the change requirement number 5, add support for UPI payments to the e-commerce checkout. Continued. Requirement prioritization. Common frameworks are Moscow, must, should, could, want. So all these, BRD, FRD, SRS, and, Moscow, I have created other videos as well on my channel and you can check them. So in this case, requirement is password reset. So this is must have, like we need this one. The reason is essential user function. Dark mode, when you go on to the page, the mode changes from dark to white. Could have, it's a low business value. So business analyst training, day 3, business process modeling and analysis. So that will be the focus today. Let's discuss the content. So what we're going to discuss today, what is BRD, the key components of BRD, what is FRD, Key components of FRD. What is SRS? Key components of SRS. What is the difference between BRD, FRD, SRS in a overview table? What is BRD? A business requirement document is a formal document that clearly defines the business need and project goals, serving as a foundation for successful project delivery. It outlines why the project is necessary, what the business hopes to achieve, and which stakeholders are involved. So I will basically say, in a layman language, this is kind of a Bible for a business analyst to understand what the project is about, what needs to be done, what are the things are in scope, out of scope. For example, in a project where the client wants to implement an online appointment booking system, to improve customer experience, the BRD would elaborate on the business problem, such as inefficiencies in the current appointment process, causing long wait time and customer dissatisfaction. It would state the business goal, enabling customers to easily book, reschedule, or cancel appointment online, ultimately enhancing convenience and operation efficiencies. So think about this case, in this system, the customers are facing issues. They're facing issues with the appointment system. So in a real life, if a customer or a member is facing these kind of issues, they will straight away call your help desk or customer service. That is more that cost more to the company. So in this problem, what we are trying to resolve is to have a better process for a member, and also to make sure that we don't spend a lot of money in our customer care team. Every call costs around, way more than what an online chat costs. So over here, we are making sure that, we have a good online booking system. So the member book the appointment over here, reschedule over here, so he doesn't have to call our help desk. Key components of BRD: business goals and objective. It defines the strategic purpose of the project, the expected benefits, and alignment with business priorities. For instance, improving customer retention by 15% through better service access. What is the project scope? It specifies what the project will deliver and any boundaries or exclusions, like what are the things in scope, out of scope. For example, the system will support booking but not payment processing initially. So think about the projects is in the initial stage, so and we are only focusing on support booking but not the payment processing right now. It will also outline who are the stakeholders in case a business analyst has a questions or any query, who they can reach out to. So the stakeholders, the BRD identifies all involved, like business owner, end user, and IT team. So if anyone is reading this document, he can outline who are the people, who are the main stakeholders for this project. Functional and non-functional requirements. High-level features the system must support, functional plus criteria like performance or security non-functional. If you don't know about functional and non-functional requirements, I have a particular video on this functional versus non-functional requirement on my YouTube channel. So basically functional requirement, so in a layman language, if I discuss about function, taking out a money from the ATM is a functional requirement, and how quickly you can withdraw the money is the non-functional requirement. Assumption and constraint, conditions presumed true for planning, like availability of key resources and limitations like budget or regulatory requirements. Acceptance criteria, predefined measure for project success to guide validations. So this will help the business analyst to write the user stories in more details. Risk and mitigation strategies, potential obstacles with contingency plans. The BRD effectively translates the client business need into a structured plan that guides all project stakeholders, ensuring clarity and shared understanding before detailed design and development phase begins. For example, the current manual appointment system leads to an average wait time of 15 minutes per customer. By implementing an online booking system, the customer will be able to schedule appointments at their convenience 24/7, reducing wait time by 50% and increasing customer satisfaction metrics within 6 months of the launch. Now let's talk about what is FRD. Function requirement documents takes the broader business requirement stated in the BRD and breaks them down into specific system functionalities that the software must provide to fulfill those business needs. So let's discuss an example. If the business requirement is to improve customer appointment booking, the FRD will specify the exact system functions necessary to achieve this. System must allow user to select appointment slots and send email notifications is a concrete function requirement. The system should provide a user interface where customers can view available time slots and choose one of their appointments. The system should provide a user interface where a customer can view available time slots and choose one of their appointments. Once a slot is selected and appointment is booked, the system should automatically generate and send confirmation emails and reminders to the user. Once a slot is selected and appointment is booked, the system should automatically generate and send confirmation emails and reminders to the user. The FRD details such functions in a clear, testable format to guide developers in building the system features and tester in verifying them. It will usually include user registration and login, appointment booking interface, email notification systems, use case, user book appointment, system check availability, and it confirms the booking. And the member gets the email confirmation. In short, the FRD acts as a bridge between business goals and the technical solution by translating what the business wants into how the system will behave during use, making it actionable for the development team. Now let's discuss what are the key components of FRD. Introduction. Purpose. It describes the goal of the document and its intended audience. Scope. It defines what the system will cover and often what it won't cover. Like what are the things in scope, what are the things out scope. Think about you're developing something, a healthcare portal, and couple of countries are in scope, couple of countries are out scope, out of scope. So this document will outline all those. Background. It explains the business context or a problem being solved. Reference, list related documents, business requirement document, design specs, policies. And also thinking about in scope and out of scope, it can also outline, we are improving the system for right now in the healthcare or the appointment system only for dental members. Next will be coming for the health members, medical members like that. Stakeholders. It identifies all key users, departments, and role involved. It includes responsibilities and contact information. Continue key components of FRD. System overview, high-level description of the system or process, may include a system context diagram showing inputs, outputs, and interactions. Function requirement. This is the core of FRD describing what the system should do. Function requirements. This is the core of FRD describing what the system should do. Each functional requirement should include requirement ID for traceability right now and for later stage, description, what the function does. It will outline what exactly needs to be done over here. Rationale or benefit, why is it needed? The online portal we are creating, why is it needed? Who will going to use it? Inputs, data entered by the user. This is called inputs, and output is any reports or file generated. Process logic or workflow, it will show step-by-step flow the system follows to complete the function. So it might have a workflow diagram. Acceptance criteria, and the last is priority, must have, should have, etc. Now let's discuss what is SRS. A software requirement specification document provides a comprehensive and detailed outline of all the requirements for the system to be developed. It serves as a single agreed upon reference for what the software should do and how it must perform, including function and non-functional requirement. So let's discuss the example. When stating the system shall handle up to 100,000 concurrent users and ensures data security with encryption, the SRS elaborates on both scalability, like how handling many simultaneous users without performance loss will happen, and security. All sensitive data must be protected with encryption protocols. These specifies ensures that technical teams know exactly what needs to be built and tested. Now let's discuss what are the key components of SRS. Introduction and purpose. It overview of the project, the aim of the project, audience and objective.
What is the scope? Defines the system boundaries and what features are included or excluded. Functional requirement, detailed description of system behavior and features. For example, system shall allow users to book, reschedule, and cancel appointment. Non-functional requirement, quality standards such as performance, scalability, usability, security, and reliability. So for example, response time must be under 2 seconds for any user action. So think about a member cancels the appointment. So they should get an email confirmation within next 10 seconds. Or they book an appointment or reschedule, the confirmation should be sending to them within the next 10 to 20 seconds. Data requirements. What data will be stored, processed, and how it's structured. System interfaces. How the system interacts with other software, hardware, or third-party APIs. Assumption and constraint. So when you are creating a project, what are the limitations or conditions the system must operate under, like browser capability or regulatory compliance. So whenever you're implementing something, is your website will be browsable in Chrome, Safari, or where? We have to elaborate everything. Acceptance criteria, how success will be measured for each requirement, how we'll make sure that whatever requirement was given are made now. SRS document is a critical to prevent misunderstanding between stakeholders, developers, reduce project risk, provide a foundation for testing. It ensures every requirement, business need, features, or constraint is measurable, testable, and fully documented before design and development begin. So basically try to understand, it outlines everything. It makes sure that everyone on the project understand what needs to be done. Think about if anytime, we don't have the clear directions, and if we create something wrong, then we have to recreate it. A lot of, infrastructure is needed. A lot of resources are needed. Every agile team has at least 5 to 7 people in the team, like Scrum Master, 3 4 developers, BA, product owner. All of them have to sit down again, redefine the requirements. Developer has to develop it, QA tester has to test it, and then so it will take another one sprint. And just think about what one sprint will go to cost about. If we have 3 developers, testers, product owner, scrum master, it will be easily $1,000 easily, and that can be avoided if we have made sure that we understand the requirement initially right. Now let's discuss BRD, FRD, SRS in a table, and I will going to distinguish them into how they are different from each other. BRD, what is the purpose of the BRD? Business needs and goals. And what is the example? Online booking system goals. Key sections, executive summary, and project scope. How FRD is different than BRD? It will define the system functions, booking features and notifications. The key section will be functional requirement use cases. And how the SRS is different than BRD and FRD? The SRS will have detailed system specification. The example will be performance and security details, and the key sections will be function and the non-function specifications. So this is how the BRD, FRD, SRS distinguish between each other. And as a BA or as any member of your IT team, you have to understand why we need these three kind of documentation, because any project you will going to work on, you will going to start working on the BRD, FRD, and SRS. As a new BA, whenever you will join any new organization, the first thing will be provided to you will be the BRD document, so you can understand what project is going on, what phase we are in, and where you will be able to help the team. Business Analyst Training Day 4, Business Analyst Tools, Techniques, and Process Models. So what will be the content today? What is process modeling? As is versus to be process? Common process diagram types like flowchart, swimlane diagrams, SIPOC diagram, supplier, input, process, output, and customer, activity diagram, UML, workflow diagram, how to create a process flow, tools for process modeling with use case. What is process modeling? Process modeling is a visual representation of the steps involved in completing a business task. It helps business analysts understand how work is currently done and identify opportunities for improvement.
Why does it matter to a business analyst? Makes complex workflow easy to understand, helps identify gaps, bottlenecks, and duplicate work, improves communication between business and IT, supports automation and system design. Now let's talk about as is versus to be process. As is process is the current state, shows the existing workflow exactly how it is today. So as the name suggests, as is process is the current state of any project or product. To be process, so that's the future state, shows the improved workflow after changes or automations. So what is the example of as is? Let's take an example of loan approval process. Customer fill out paper form, loan officer manually enters the data, printed file sent to credit team reviews it and manually checks credit, approval decision after several days. So this is the process of a loan approval, which is as is process. So let's talk about what will be the to be process for a loan approval process. Customers submit an online application. So see the changes. Before the customer was filling out a paper form. Now the customer is filling out an online application. System auto validates data. So in the previous like case as is, the loan officer was manually entering the data and then analyzing it, printed file sent to the credit team. Now the system sends everything, auto validates the data, no need to manual enter. Credit API performs instant credit check. Loan officer reviews result digitally. Customer receives automated approval or denial message within couple of days, not several days now. So see, this is the example of as is versus to be process. So currently in this example, in as is, we are taking so much time. There's manual work, manual entry. We have to fill out a paper form, but to be the process, we have made it more digitalized. So what were the issues with the as is process? Manual data entry, delays due to physical movement of files, high risk of errors because people are manually entering the data. What are the benefits of to be process? Faster approval, fewer errors and reduce manual effort. So see the example of where we were at the current state, now what we want to be the future state. So this is the loan application process is a perfect example how a business analyst create as is process versus to be process. Common process diagram types. Flowchart, a step-by-step visual representation of a process using boxes, arrows, and decisions. By now, if you are preparing for business analysts, you must have definitely done a flowchart diagram in your school or colleges where you start on the top and the process diagram keeps on moving from start to end. And there's multiple options in between that. There's a decision box as well, a diamond where you say yes or no stuff. And I will have an example in the next slide. Where it's used, simple workflows, approvals, system processes, customer journey. What will be the example of that? Online return request flowchart, which we're going to discuss in the next slide. Customer submit return request. So take an example, you're an Amazon member and you bought something, but now you have decided to return. So you will request a return request. You will submit a return request. System validates order number, decision if the item eligible for return or not. If yes, approve return. If no, notify the customer that this is out of the return window or this product is not eligible for certain reason and you provide that reason in the email. Customer prints return label if in case the return is approved. Item returned to the warehouse. Return refund is processed. Describing this one, we were going step by step, but we didn't have the clear vision. So here's an example of that same thing we discussed in the previous slide as an example of Amazon return. Customer submit return request, system validates order number. if the item is eligible for return. If it's no, then we notify the customer on the screen and we also send an email about that the return can't be processed. If it's yes, we approves the return, customer prints return label, and then he send item is returned to the warehouse by the post, and then the refund is issued. So this is so visual as compared to the last slide where we were going step by step and laying down what the steps are. So this is how why we use flowchart. Common process diagram types continued. So what other diagrams we have? Swimlane diagram, a process diagram that divides activity by roles or departments using lanes. Where it's used, cross-functional workflows, processes involving several teams, responsibility mapping. So we are working within multiple teams and we want to map the responsibilities. So in this way, see the example on the right, customer, loan officer, underwriting, we have divided who is responsible for what. So we have the clear understanding. So the customer fill out the form, loan officer review the application, underwriting conducts risk check, customer responsibility to upload the documentation. Then loan officer is, he can request if any document is missing. Underwriting makes approval. At the end, customer receives the approval. Loan officer sends final package and the underwriting team sends decision back. So why swim lane is used? Shows who does what clearly. So each lane is equal to a role, team, or system. Every step is assigned to an owner, so no confusion about the responsibility. Visualize hands-off and dependencies. So highlight where work moves from. So from customer to loan officer to the other department. So from business to dev, from developer to QA, from QA to business, helps identify delays caused by handovers. It improves process clarity, combines process flow plus responsibilities, much clearer than a simple flowchart, identifies bottlenecks and gaps, easy to spot the gaps and bottlenecks, too many approvals, rework loops, waiting time between teams, great for requirement and UAT clarity, helps business analysts define who provides input, who validates output, useful for UAT ownership and sign off. UAT is user acceptance testing, supports agile and cross-functional teams, ideal for Scrum teams with PO, business analysts, developers, QA, and business users. The next one is commonly used process diagram is SIPOC, a high-level process map showing supplier, input, process, output, and customer. This is how the name is SIPOC. S for supplier, I for inputs, P for process, O for outputs, and C for customer. Where it's used, process improvement, Six Sigma, understanding scope quickly, executive level presentation. And this is the example. Category, supplier, restaurant. Details will be restaurant, delivery driver. Input will be menu data, customer order or payment. Process will be receive order, prepare food, assign driver and get it delivered. Output will be delivered meal, delivered confirmation, happy customer. Customers and customer who will be happy. Why CPOC diagram is used? Defines process boundaries, clarifies where the process starts and ends, prevents scope creep, what's in scope versus out of scope, creates a shared understanding, aligns business, quality assurance, business analysts, developers, and stakeholders. Everyone sees the same picture of the process. Identify key stakeholders, shows who is the supplier and who is the customer, so easy to identify, helps business analysts know who to talk to and who is impacted, clarifies inputs and outputs, what goes into the process like inputs, what comes out of the process like outputs,
useful for requirement gathering and UAT planning, useful at the start of analysis or improvements, where it's commonly used, requirement elicitation, process improvements, Six Sigma lean, root cause analysis to find out where the error happened and what should we fix. It saves time. It's a high level and simple, no deep steps. Great starting point before detailed flowchart or user stories are created. Common process diagrams types continued. Workflow diagram, similar to flowchart, but focuses on task, resources, and hands-off. Where it's used, HR workflows, finance approvals, ticketing or help desk. What will be the example? New employee onboarding workflow. So a new employee has joined. So what are the steps they need to do in order that the employee will be onboarded? HR creates the profile. IT creates the account. Manager assigns role. Employee completes training if required before the joining or after the joining. System grants full access. How to create a process flow? Identify actors, determine who will be involved, for example, customer, employee, manager. Example will be in an order fulfillment process. Actors could be customer, warehouse staff, and delivery driver. Identify steps, list each action or decision. For example, for a loan approval process, application is submitted, initial review, credit check, approval decision. So this is the flow, how the application will going to move. Define inputs and outputs. Clearly note what goes into each step and what comes out. For example, in a hiring process, the input might be job application and the output might be shortlisted candidates. Tools for process modeling. So you will see here this one Lucidchart, a web-based tools that allows easy drag and drop diagram creation. For example, use Lucidchart to create a detailed flowchart of sales process. Microsoft Visio, popular for more complex diagrams and enterprise use. For example, create a Swimlane diagram for a cross-department process. Miro, great for collaborative real-time process mapping. For example, use Miro for team workshop to map out new business process. Today's content, Introduction to Agile, Agile Principles. What is Scrum? Example of Scrum workflow. What are user stories? What are acceptance criteria? Example of user story with acceptance criteria. Good user story versus bad user story. How business analysts contribute in Agile. So let's start with Introduction to Agile. Agile is a iterative and flexible approach to project delivery that focuses on delivering value in small increments. So this is how you achieve in small sprints. Like an example, a mobile app team releases passwordless login first, then add Face ID, then multi-device sync. Each release improves member experience without waiting too long. A banking team release view balance, then view transaction, then download statement, then categorize spending. Each increment solves a real customer need. Continuous collaboration with stakeholders. So how you collaborate with stakeholders? The product owner meets with customer support weekly to understand new pain points and adjust backlog priorities. A Scrum team invites marketing to sprint review, so upcoming feature align with launch campaigns, and marketing knows about this one, so they can provide the best marketing, email communication, or paper communication to the members. Responding quickly to change. A competitor launches a new feature, the team immediately reprioritizes the backlog to deliver a matching capability within 2 sprints. So now we have realized, our competitor is launching something and we feel that will be really beneficial to our members. So we are accommodating that one in our backlog.
A stakeholder realizes a requirement is no longer needed. The team removes it instantly instead of building unnecessary functionality. Frequent feedback loops. Developer shares early API contracts with QA to get feedback before implementation. So the developer doesn't wait till the end. The team uses feature flags to release functionality to a smaller user group, gather feedback, and improve before full rollout. Key agile values: individual and interaction over process and tools. So, like an example, a developer walks over to a BA to clarify a requirement instead of spending hours writing long emails or creating tickets. Another example will be the team holds a quick whiteboard session or discussion to solve a design problem instead of waiting for a formal meeting. Because when you are putting up a formal meeting, not all the people will be available. So it's really good that just jump it, do the discussion on a whiteboard. QA and dev pair and then test a feature together, catching issues faster than relying solely on documenting the test cases. Working product over documentation. So instead of writing 40-page requirement document, the team builds a clickable prototype to show stakeholders how the feature will going to work. Developer deliver a working API endpoint and demo it to the team instead of focusing on perfecting API documentation fast. The team prioritizes building a functional login flow rather than writing detailed design document that may become outdated very quickly. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So a client sees early demos every 2 weeks and give feedback that shapes the next sprint. So instead of sticking rigidly to the original contract scope, we are okay to change. The product owner works closely with business user to refine acceptance criteria as new insight emerges. The team invites stakeholder to backlog refinement sessions so they can co-create solution instead of relying solely on formal requirement sign-off. So this way you're inviting the stakeholders to take part with you and get the perfect solution they are looking for. Responding to change over following a plan. Analytics show users aren't using a newly released feature. The team immediately shift focus to improve usability instead of continuing with the original roadmap. So what they have created, they are focusing on making it more improve. A regulatory update requires changes to the product. The team adapts the sprint backlog to meet the new compliance rules. Because if you don't comply with the rules, you might be affected with a fine from the state or a government. During development, the team discovers a simpler solution that saves time and cost, so they pivot instead of sticking to the original design. So another example will be a retail company launches its mobile app feature by feature every 2 weeks instead of waiting months for the full release. So in this way, they are showcasing what they have developed to the stakeholders, get the inputs to them, so they are creating the perfect solution or a perfect product. Agile has 12 principles, but let's focus on most BA relevant here. Early and continuous delivery of value. So in this example, a fintech team releases a basic loan calculator, then adds eligibility check, then application submission. User get value from day one. And also the company gets value as well. A retail app launches order tracking first, then adds delivery notification, then real-time driver location. Welcome changing requirements. Mid sprint, a stakeholder realizes customer prefer phone verification over email. The team adjusts the login flow instead of resisting the change. User research shows a feature is confusing. The team redesigns the UI even if the original design was already approved. A competitor launches a new capability. The team shifts priority to stay competitive. Close collaboration between business and developers. Developers invite business users to review early prototypes to validate workflows before coding continues. QA developer and business analysts jointly define acceptance criteria to avoid misunderstanding later. Business stakeholders join sprint review and give immediate feedback that shapes the next sprint. Deliver working Deliver working software frequently 2 to 4 weeks. A Scrum team releases a new version of mobile app every 3 weeks, each time adding small but meaningful improvements. A product team uses feature flag to release small slices of functionality to real users every 2 weeks. A startup pushes weekly update to the production even if there are very small UI or performance improvements. Simplicity: maximize the amount of work not done. Instead of building a complex custom reporting engine, the team integrates a simple export to CSV option that meets 80% of user needs. In this way, you're saving time and money. The team avoids over-engineering by building only the essential fields of a form instead of adding every possible options. Developer reuse an existing authentication service instead of creating a new one from scratch. Regular reflection and improvement. QA identifies recurring bugs from rush testing, so the team adds a mid-sprint test cycle. The team noticed burnout and agrees to reduce work in progress to improve flow and reduce stress. What is Scrum? Scrum is the most commonly used agile framework that organizes work into small cycles called sprint, usually 2 weeks. What are the Scrum roles? Product owner, what he does, defines vision, prioritize backlog. Scrum Master, he removes blockers and coaches the team. Development team consists of designers, developers, and testers. Scrum events, in sprint refinement, you bring your user story for the first time in front of the team so you can make them aware of what exactly needs to be built in coming weeks. Sprint grooming, once the user story goes through the sprint refinement, it comes to the sprint grooming. In this meeting, the overall goal of the team is to story point the user stories. Sprint planning, this session is before the sprint starts. So you plan what needs to be built, what are the user stories we will be bringing into the next sprint. Daily stand-up, this is a 15-minute session every day where everyone comes and they basically answers what they have done yesterday, what they will going to do today, and if they have any blockers. Sprint review or sprint demo, after the product is developed, after the sprint, you provide a demo to the stakeholders to get their feedback. Sprint retrospective is also kind of a review, but of your own team. After the sprint, the whole team sits and then try to understand what went well, what didn't went well, what other things need to be changed in our team. Scrum artifacts, product backlog, sprint backlog, increment of the product we built. PO creates and prioritizes backlog. So PO gathers input from customers, business stakeholders, analytics, and support team. They create backlog items like enable one-click checkout, add order tracking notification, improve search performances. Team selects stories for the sprint. So the team goes to the backlog and sees what other things need to be done in the next sprint. During sprint planning, the team reviews the top backlog items as per the priority. Developers and QA estimate effort and discuss dependencies. The team commits to a realistic set of stories, for example, add delivery status to order history, fix payment timeout issue. Team works in short cycles. The team breaks stories into tasks like API updates, UI change. Daily stand up for updates. A quick 15-minute sync where each member shares what they completed yesterday, what they plan to do today, any blockers. Example, yesterday I finished the API for order status. Today I will integrate it with the UI blocked on test data from QA. At end of the sprint review and increment, the team demos completed work to stakeholders and they give feedback. Here the new order tracking screen, here how the payment timeout fix works. Retrospective for improvements, the team reflects on what went well, what didn't went well, and what to improve in next sprint. What are user stories? A user story is a simple description of a requirement from a user perspective. So there's a format called invest in which we write the user stories. As a user, as a type of user, I want a feature so that the business value. So for example, how we'll write a good user story. As a customer, I want to reset my password so that I can recover access to my account. As a admin, I want to export user data so that I can generate monthly reports. As a Amazon user, I want to log in onto my account so I can check my orders. As a shopper, I want to filter products by price so that I can find items within my budget. Now let's talk about what are acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria specify conditions that must be met for a user story to be considered complete. Purpose of acceptance criteria: set expectations. For example, as a customer, I want to reset my password so I can access my account. The acceptance criteria will be: user receives a reset link in 2 minutes, link expires after 10 minutes, user must enter new password twice and must meet password security rules when they are changing the password. It removes ambiguity. They eliminate guesswork for developers, QA, and stakeholders. For example, without acceptance criteria, add search functionality. The dev might build keyword search while business expected filter and sorting. So see, if you're not writing acceptance criteria, it has ambiguity. The other person might feel something else, but you were thinking something else. Serves as basis of testing. QA uses acceptance criteria to write test cases and confirms the feature works. For example, the acceptance criteria will be: system sends confirmation email after order is placed. Email includes order number and delivery date. So the QA will going to write the test case out of this one saying place an order, verify email is received, check email contains correct order number, check delivery date matches the system. Defines done for a team. A story is only done when all acceptance criteria are met, not when code seems to work. For example, acceptance criteria for add an item to a cart. Item appears in the cart instantly, cart updates total price, cart persists after page refreshes. Definition of done will be: the story isn't complete until all three behaviors work exactly as described. Let's talk about two formats of acceptance criteria widely used: scenario based, which is Gherkin, and bullet checklist acceptance criteria. So let's talk about scenario based Gherkin. Scenario: successful login with valid credentials. Given the user is on login page, when the user enter a valid username and valid password and clicks on login button, then the user should be redirected to the dashboard and a welcome message should appear. Scenario: login attempt with incorrect password. Given the user is on a login page, when the user enters a valid username and invalid password and clicks on login, the system should display an incorrect username or password as an error message, and the user should remain on the login page. Login attempt with blank fields. Given the user is on the login page, when the user clicks on login without entering any credentials, then the system should display a username and passwords are required message. Bullet and checklist acceptance criteria. So user story will be: as a customer, I want to log into the online portal so that I can access my account. Acceptance criteria in a checklist format will be: the system must require both username and password for login. The system must validate credentials against the user database. If the username and password are valid, the user is redirected to the dashboard. A welcome message must appear after successful login, so the member knows that the login has been successful. If a password is incorrect, an error message must be displayed: incorrect username and password. If the user leaves the username or password blank, a validation message must be shown. The system should lock the account after 5 consecutive failed login attempt, and this can be an optional acceptance criteria. What is the difference between good user story versus bad user story? So a bad user story will be: create order tracking page. Why is it bad? Not from user perspective. No value, no acceptance criteria. A good story example will be, as a customer, I want to track my order so that I know when it will arrive. With clear acceptance criteria, this is testable and actionable. How business analysts contribute to the agile? Clarify requirements, break down epics into smaller user stories, write a good acceptance criteria, assist in backlog refinement and help the product owner, facilitate communication between product owner, developer, QA, designer. They support user acceptance testing. A real example will be a collaborate with product owner to split a large checkout process epic into smaller stories. Like the user story will be user story number one, add to cart, user story number two, payment, user story number three, apply coupons, and user story number four, review order.
Want to know the actual tools business analysts use in real projects? In day 6 of our BA training, I will walk you through Jira, Confluence, SQL, wireframing tools, and how AI is changing the business analyst role. So let's get started. Content for today will be requirement documentation tools, followed by diagramming tools, followed by project management tools, wireframing and prototyping tools, SQL basics for BAs, and last AI tools for BAs. If you have not seen my other videos, which I have created for BA training from day 1 to day 5, I highly encourage you watch them. Requirement documentation tools. These tools are used to capture, organize, and share what, why of a project. So, when you start as working as a business analyst, you start gathering requirements. You will use these tools to gather the requirements, put the requirements there, and make sure you have a source of truth for the requirement gathering. You will have one place where you can always go and find your requirement gathering. I will say which you have gathered by connecting with the stakeholders. Confluence, a highly widely used tool, a collaborative workspace where you and your team members can work. Example will be creating a product requirements document where stakeholders can leave comments directly on specific features. So it's a one collaborative workspace where you can work and at the same time other team members can work as well. Whenever you're using Confluence, your team will also be using Jira for creating user stories and other features. MS Word and Google Docs, traditional word processing documents. Everyone has used it when you were working in a school, college, you were creating your documents. So this is also highly used and you don't need any subscription or anything and you can start working on that one. Again, these documents are used to gather requirements, manage requirements when you have the requirements from these stakeholders. Example will be drafting a formal business requirement document for digital signature by executive leaderships. Diagramming tools. Visualizing processes helps identifying bottlenecks and ensure the team understand the workflow. So take an example when you write a user stories and that user stories need a wireframe or a diagram. It is always good to provide that one. When you provide words with the visual, it always helps for the clarity to the other team members. The tools we use are Visio, Lucidchart, professional charting. Example will be mapping out to be process flow to show how a customer will navigate a new checkout page. So a member comes, click on few products, click on add to the cart, and how the member will going to navigate to the checkout page then. Miro, an online whiteboard for brainstorming. So it's as the name suggests, it's an online whiteboard so where you can brainstorm different ideas within your team. Example will be conducting a remote gap analysis session where team members move virtual sticky notes to identify missing system capabilities. Project management tools. BA use these to track the progress of a requirement from start, in progress, and done. So when you're working in the Jira, you will start your user stories, and then once you start, it will be in progress, and then you will keep following the user stories unless it is in a done status. Jira, the industry standard for agile teams, as I said, example will be writing user stories and linking them to epics to ensure the development team knows exactly what to build during a specific sprint. So any user story you create, you will definitely going to make sure you are linking to them to the epics. The epics are the higher level work which needed. Under those epics, there are multiple user stories which are created to make sure the whole epic is done. Trello, Azure DevOps, and Monday.com. So these are another alternative tracking tools which any company can use. Example will be using a Kanban board in Trello to visualize the status of various documentation tasks. Wireframing and prototyping tools. Before code is written, business analysts create low fidelity sketches to align on the user interface. So, even before a BA reaches out to the UI team, they can create something on from their own side to give a visual to what exactly they are trying to do. Sometimes, take an example, you're already working on a website, so you just basically go onto the website, and that website just need one addition of a box or a checkbox. So being a BA, you can yourself create that checkbox for the team, and you will be more productive to yourself, your team, and you will not need the UI resources which are working on a high project which needs more attention and more work from them. Balsamic focuses on low fidelity hand drawn sketches. As I said, you can start drawing something from the scratch and provide a visual to your team. Example will be creating a skeleton of a mobile app to decide where the submit button should live without worrying about colors or font. Figma and Adobe XD highly used. They are high fidelity prototyping. Example will be building a clickable prototype that mimics a real website to conduct user testing before a development begins. So these tools are very highly used and you are very useful for a BA for wireframing and prototyping tools. SQL basics for BA. So a lot of time when I'm teaching or I'm making someone to helping someone in the interview series, they always ask me, is the SQL really needed for a business analyst? So let's talk about it. Why SQL matters? SQL is structured query language, allows BA to pull their own data rather than waiting on a developer. So this is, as a BA, I always says, you have to understand basic SQL. You don't have to dive in, you don't have to code, but a basic SQL understanding will be good because then you can pull your own data rather than waiting for developer to help you. Like select statement and filter, example will be select customer name from order where order date is any, it can be any date. This identifies all customer who placed an order in the last year. Basics join, example joining a user table with a subscription table to see which user have a active subscription account as of right now. AI tools for BA, ChatGPT for requirements, AI for process mapping, using AI to prepare meeting notes, acceptance criteria, and user stories. In these days, AI is highly used to gather, to prepare meeting notes. You can start a recording or you can start a transcript. You can also use for writing acceptance criteria or user stories. You basically need to provide the right prompts to them so the AI understand what kind of user stories need to be built or what kind of acceptance criteria needs over here. So let's dive into the more detail in that. Chat GPT for requirements or any AI tool. Business analysts can use ChatGPT to help write, refine, or clarifying requirements quickly. Instead of starting from scratch, BA can provide context and let the AI structure the requirement professionally. How it helps: convert rough ideas into clear requirements, improve requirement wording, identify missing details. It creates functional and non-functional requirements. So let's see how the example works. A scenario will be a company wants a mobile banking app feature to transfer money. Okay. A BA might ask ChatGPT, write functional requirements for a mobile banking app that allows user to transfer money between accounts. So the AI output example will be And I highly emphasize that when you're working with AI, make sure you read what is the output. AI always says, I will provide the best result, but it always says as well, it might have some issues or problems. So always read out what the ChatGPT or any AI tool is giving you the output. So the function requirement will be user should be able to select the source account. User should be able to enter the recipient account details, so where the money to be transferred. The system should validate the recipient account before transfer. The system should display transfer confirmation. So, currently, either you are in United States or India, whenever you want to transfer the money, the bank, I've seen most of the banks do make sure that they verify the details of the recipient. So when you put the details at the end of when you're adding the recipient to your account, they will say yes, this details matches of what you have provided, or they provide you the maybe the name correction or something. So if you put Jayesh and if the name is Jay, or you put Robin or the name is Rob, they will make sure that they provide you those details at the end. The system should send a notification after successful transfer. Now talk about the non-function requirement example. The transaction must be completed within 3 seconds. This saves times and helps the BA structure requirement quickly. And remember, I always emphasize, the difference between a function requirement and non-function requirement is basically function requirement outlines the steps needed. Like take an example, taking out the money from the ATM will be you put your ATM card, you punch in the PIN number and take the money out. The non-function requirement will be how quickly you can take the money out. So maybe if you go to one bank, it might take 10 minutes, or sorry to say 10 minutes, it might take around a minute. The other bank might do everything in 30 seconds. So how quickly the machine is working. So these are the non-function requirements. AI for process mapping. AI tools can help business analysts convert text description into process diagrams such as flowcharts. These diagrams visually represent the workflow and help stakeholders understand the business processes. Example will be a scenario and online order process. A BA describes the process to an AI. Create a process flow for an e-commerce order process. So the process flow, the output will be customer place order, system validates payment, order confirmation sent to a customer either via email or SMS. Warehouse receives the order number. The warehouse makes sure the item is packaged. The warehouse makes sure the shipping label is generated. The order shipped to the customer. While the order is being shipped to the customer gets a notification where the order is, or he can check the track status. AI tools can convert this into flowchart or BPM diagram, which saves time for BAs. This helps with process documentation, process improvement, stakeholder presentation. Now, talking about you using AI to prepare meeting notes, acceptance criteria, and user stories. AI can help BAs summarize discussion and convert them into structured documentation. Meeting notes. After a meeting transcript, AI can summarize key points. Example will be meeting discussion about login feature. AI summarize meeting notes as stakeholder wants multi-factor authentication. Login should support email and phone number. Password reset option required. Login attempts limited to 5 tries. So these are the meeting notes generated by the AI, which outlines. It also outlines the next steps as well, and then it will go to assign. Take an example. Jay should make sure the stakeholder wants multi-factor authentication. So this is assigned to Jay. So he will make sure when the this user story is being done, we have to make sure that multi-factor authentication is taken care of. Or maybe as a next step, Jay will schedule another call to make sure the requirements are gathered properly. Now talk about user stories. AI can convert requirement into agile user stories. So you provide the right prompts and they can convert into a great user stories requirement. Example will be for a user story, as a customer, I want to reset my password so that I can regain access to my account if I forget it. So it's very descriptive. As a customer or as a BA, I have provided the right details to the AI. Acceptance criteria. AI can also create acceptance criteria. An example will be for the same user story, a user can request password reset via email. System sends a reset link to the registered email. Reset link expires after 15 minutes, so the member has to make sure that he create or he generate the password again. User can create a new password after verification. So the AI has helped you here to writing user stories. It has helped you in writing the acceptance criteria. You have to make sure you provide the right prompts to them. Today on day 7 of our business analyst training series. First of all, congratulations on making it this far. You have built a strong foundation, and today we'll be bringing everything together. In this session, we're going to work on final mini project. We'll cover on UAT, user acceptance testing, and prepare you for real interview scenarios. Make sure you stay with me till the end because I will also be sharing some powerful career tips that can help you break into business analyst role. Think of today as a step where you move from learning to the real world applications. So let's get started. So to start today, we're going to talk about traceability matrix in the contents. We're going to talk about UAT basics, user acceptance testing. We're going to talk about BA interview questions, what kind of questions comes in the interview. We're going to talk about resume tips for business analysts. We're going to talk about final mini project at the end, which is very practical. And at the end, closing summary for what we have achieved in the last 7 days. Today is the seventh day training, so what we have done in the last 6 days of business analyst training, and some career tips. So traceability matrix. A traceability matrix is a document used in project management, business analysis, and software development to ensure that all requirements are accounted for throughout the project lifecycle. It established a clear link between requirements, what the project should achieve, designs, test cases, implementation, how requirements are being fulfilled, like how you're going to make sure that the requirements are done. In simple words, if I say it's a tool that traces requirement to ensure nothing is missed and that every requirement is tested and implemented properly. So think as when you're working on a project, how you will make sure that you are taking care of everything. So this traceability matrix makes sure that you are aligned. You make sure that you have done everything and nothing is missed during your project. It is also sometimes called requirement traceability matrix, which is RTM. Now we're going to talk about what is the purpose of traceability matrix. The traceability matrix is created to ensure coverage, that all requirements have corresponding test cases or deliverables, identify gaps, it detects requirements that are missing in designs or testing, manage changes, track the impact of changes in requirement on design, code, or test, improve quality. It helps in reducing defects by making sure that all requirements are validated. Now let's talk about what are the components of traceability matrix. In this one, you will going to talk about in column and description. So column will go, you can create on Excel sheet. Column will be requirement ID. So the requirement ID will going to talk about the unique identifier for the requirements like R1, R2. So think about you started working on Apex features and requirements. So now in the requirement, you have user story 1, user story 2. So user story 1 will be kind of requirement 1 and user story 2 will be kind of a requirement 2. Requirement description, detailed explanation of the requirement, what basically the user story is about or what basically the requirement is all about. Source, who requested or defined the requirements? Was it client, business analyst, was it scrum master, was it product owner? Design specification and module, which design module or component satisfy this requirement? test case ID. So for every requirement, there will be test case to be created, which will be done by the quality assurance QA. Test case is written to validate the requirement and status. The current status of the requirement, like is the requirement is in pending state right now, in progress, completed, or tested. So think of traceability matrix as an Excel document which you can share in front of your team, which can tell where the requirements are, what are the status of those requirements in it. Let's talk about what are the types of traceability metrics. Forward traceability traces requirement to test cases. So we first write the requirements, user story, and then to the test cases. It ensures all requirements are implemented and tested. Backward or reverse traceability, it traces test cases back to the requirement. It ensures that no extra unnecessary functionality is being developed. Then it comes with the bi-directional traceability. It combines both forward and backward traceability. It ensures complete coverage and proper alignment between requirements and deliverables. So in your interview, if someone asks you what are the types of traceability metrics, so now you know forward, backward, and bi-directional traceability. Let's see an example of traceability matrix now. As I said, you can make it on an Excel document or a Word document. Make sure you create a table, something like that. So let's suppose we have a simple online banking system with the following requirements. So now we started working on Apex features, and now we are working on an online banking system. So treat online banking system as a Epic, and then we are working on the user stories right now. So the requirement ID, requirement one will be user should be able to log in with user and password. The source of this requirement is a client. Design module is login module. Test case ID will be TC underscore login underscore 01. And when in the current status, this requirement one is completed. And I mentioned one thing as well. Don't worry about the test case ID. Test cases are created by quality assurance. You have to work closely with them. Requirement 2 will be user should be able to view account balance. Again, the source of this requirement was client. Design module will be dashboard module, and the test case ID is TC underscore balance underscore 01, which is in progress right now. Again, requirement 3, R3, user should be able to transfer money to another account. The source was client. Design module is again transfer module. The test case ID will be TC underscore transfer underscore 01. So see, like the test case ID are changing. Like the first requirement was login, the second requirement was balance, and the third requirement was transfer. So we are making sure the test case IDs correlate to the requirements. And the R3 requirement is still in pending state. The requirement 4 is system should log out automatically after 5 minutes of inactivity. The source of this requirement was client. Design module was security module, and the test case ID is TC underscore logout underscore 01, and the status of this requirement is completed right now. So this is basically how the traceability metrics will look like when you'll start working in a project and you're working with your Scrum teams, and this is how it will show on a traceability metrics. Now let's talk about what is UAT. UAT is user acceptance testing, is the final phase of a software testing lifecycle where end user or clients validate the software to ensure it meets their requirements and work in real world scenarios. So basically, this is the final phase of software testing. Where end user makes sure that everything is working perfectly, nothing is broken, there's no defects. It is performed after system testing and integration testings are completed. The main goal is to verify if the system is ready for production. What are the key points about the UAT? Conducted by actual user or business stakeholders. Focuses on business requirement, not technical bugs. Validates functional correctness, usability, and workflow, that it makes sure that everything is working as expected. It helps ensure the software meets acceptance criteria before the deployment. For example, if you are building an online banking app, UAT would involve real users testing features like logging in. Is the member able to log in? View account balance. Uh, Viewing account balance. Can a member see the account balance? Can a member transfer the money? Can a member download the bank statements? User will check whether it behaves as expected in their daily operations. Let's talk about UAT test case. UAT test case are scenarios derived from business requirement that ensures the software is satisfied end user expectations. They are different from system or function test case because they focus on real world usage rather than tactical correctness. Now let's talk about components of UAT test case. So again, it can be in table. The field can be test case ID. This is basically unique identifier like UAT underscore TC underscore 01. Then we have requirement ID. It is basically linked requirement to the RTM. Then we have the test scenarios, description of the user action or workflow. Test steps that basically it defines step-by-step actions that the user should perform or do while testing. The test data input values used during testing that basically if you are testing an application you might use to test data for users to log in. Expected result, what are the user expects to happen, so whoever is testing can make sure that expected result is this, that a member when logs in should be able to see the account balance. Are we seeing this or not? Actual result will be, are we seeing the actual balance or not? Is it working as expected? The status will be pass if we are seeing the balance, fail if we are not. And then any additional comments like any observation, deviation or notes. What is UAT defect lifecycle? The UAT defect lifecycle tracks how these defects are reported, managed, and resolved. What are the steps in UAT defect lifecycle? Defect identification. User identifies a defect while executing UAT test cases. Defect identification. User identifies a defect while executing UAT test cases. Defect login. Document the defect in a defect tracking tool like Jira or Verbs that will going to include ID, description, step to reproduce, like how the defect was found and what are the steps to recreate it, severity and priority, like does it needs to be fixed right now or it can be done later on. Defect review triage. Project manager, QA lead, and developers review the defect, decide if it's still a valid, is it a defect or is it a new requirement, and what priority it has. Defect assignment, assigned to a developer or a responsible team for fixing. Defect fix, developer resolves the defect and moves it to fixed status, and then the QA test it. Defect retesting, verification, QA or UAT user retest the defect to confirm it is resolved. The closure, once verified the defect is done, it's working as expected, it can be marked as closed. Additional points often missed: UAT sign off. After successful completion of UAT, user gives formal sign off, approving the system for production, documented as UAT sign off sheet. UAT environment, usually a staging environment that closely mimics production. Realistically, test data is used. So we normally use in the actually test in the UAT environment, which is very closely mimic to the production environment. So we test in the UAT environment first, and then if everything goes fine, then we publish it to the prod, which means the main website. Well, who are the UAT participants? Business user, product owner, business analyst, client representative. Types of UAT: alpha testing, internal user test the system, which can be like, QA, developers, beta testing, real end user, test the system in real conditions, then contract acceptance testing, test based on contractual requirement, and regulation acceptance criteria, ensure software meets regulatory standards. Let's talk about BA interview questions now. Why BA? I would like to become a BA? What are functions versus non-function requirement? Agile and waterfall? Tell me about a difficult stakeholder. These kind of questions comes during interview. How do you handle changing requirements? All these videos for these particular topics are on my YouTube channel as well. If you want to see in more details over here as well, we're going to describe or discuss in detail. But if you want in more detailed videos, you can definitely browse on my YouTube channel. Why BA? This is a common interview questions, and your answers should highlight skills, passion, and business value. I always says to all the business analysts, when you're interview, show your excitement, show your positivity. That really helps for you being able to crack the interview. Details: a BA act as a bridge between business stakeholders and technical teams. They basically gather the requirement from the business stakeholders and take those requirements into user story, analyze it, story point it, bring it to different requirement session like business refinement session, then grooming session, then you it goes to the Scrum or the planning session, and it goes to the sprint. Then we start working on it. So then basically you gather the requirement as a BA and then bring it to the technical folks, your BA, QA, well, not BA actually, developer and QA to make it done, and then you test it, you review it, and then you provide the demo. Responsible for gathering requirement, analyzing process, and ensuring solution meets business needs. Requires problem solving, communication, and analytical thinking. As a BA, you have to be very good you should have very good communication skills. You always should be thinking about problem solving. For example, I want to be a business analyst because I enjoy understanding business problem, translating them into the practical solution. For example, in my previous project, I helped the sales team by analyzing their lead management process and then proposing a solution that reduced manual work by 30%. I enjoy working with stakeholders, clarifying requirements, and ensuring that delivered solution aligns with the business goal. So these are the kind of answers which you can create or you can make. And this is just one example. If you've worked in the healthcare industry, you can create your healthcare industry example. If you've worked in the banking, then you can create your banking example. What are function and the non-function requirements? This question is highly asked in the interviews. So understanding these is a critical for BA work, especially when creating BRD and SRS as well. As I mentioned before as well, if you want to know more about BRD, FRD, SRS, I have another doc video created on my YouTube channel. Please go and browse it. So function and non-function requirement. Function requirement is define what the system should do. Non-function is define how the system should behave. Function requirement focuses on feature, behavior, and operations. Non-functions focuses on performance, security, and usability. So for example, for a function requirement, user can log in, log out, generate monthly reports, add items to the shopping cart. While for non-function requirement, login should respond within 2 seconds, like as soon as a user put username and a password, we should be able to log in within 2 seconds. System must handle 1000 concurrent users. Data should be encrypted. For measurement purpose, the function requirement will be via test cases. A non-function will be often via KPIs, benchmark, SLAs. Priority function requirement must be implemented. Non-function often critical, but sometimes trade-off possible. Example scenarios now. Imagine an online banking app. Function requirement will be user can transfer money between accounts. The non-function requirement will be the transfer should happen within 5 seconds and the system should be able 24/7. Now let's talk about agile versus waterfall. Waterfall is linear and sequential approach while agile is iterative incremental. Again, if you want to see more detailed video on agile versus waterfall, just go on my YouTube channel. Requirement in waterfall are fixed upfront, it won't be changed in between. Agile can change during sprints. Deliverables delivered at the end of the project. So the waterfall is sprint can be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. In agile, delivered in iterations, the sprint is normally 2 weeks. Feedback waterfall as the requirements are fixed. You will only be able to know at the end of the project or end of the sprint what it will be created. So a feedback, you will get a feedback at the end of the project. But in Agile, continuous feedback goes, because every 2 weeks you create a product, you show a demo to the stakeholders, and you can have their feedback. Flexibility low in waterfall while high in agile. Documentation is very heavy in waterfall and formal, while agile is lightweight, just enough to create the user stories and to keep it going. Example use case will be building a regulatory system where requirements are fixed, while agile building a mobile app with evolving features. Most of the companies in today's world use agile because it's iterative, incremental, and it is continuous feedback, and you can change anytime you want. The example will be in waterfall, you complete one phase before moving to the next, which is suited for projects with well-defined requirements. In agile, the project is broken into sprints, allowing continuous feedback and adaptation. For instance, when I worked on a learning management system, agile allowed us to incorporate stakeholder feedback every sprint, improving the course creation features faster than if we would have done through waterfall. Next question comes is, tell me about a difficult stakeholder. A difficult stakeholder can be resistant to change, unclear, or demanding. As a BA, your goal is to communicate clearly, understand their needs, and build trust. So, when you're always, if ever you work with a difficult stakeholder, try to have clear communication, understand their requirement. First of all, listen to them. If it's a difficult stakeholder, their main concern is that the BA is not listening to them. So, take your time, understand what they are saying, and then provide your inputs. Approach will be listen actively to understand concern. As I said, ask clarifying questions to document requirement accurately. Provide options or compromises if needed so they can understand why you are proposing one solution versus the other. Keep communication professional and factual. For example, in my previous project, a stakeholder wanted a feature that was technically complex and risky. I scheduled a meeting to understand their core needs and propose an alternative solution that met the same business objective but was easier to implement. The stakeholder appreciated the suggestion and we successfully implemented the solution. Let's talk about some resume tips for a business analyst. Action verbs, key BA words, how to showcase project even if you are a beginner. So let's talk about action verb. Instead of weak phrases like worked on or helped with, use strong actionable verbs that shows ownership and impact. So for example, high impact BA action words will be I analyzed business requirement and data trends. I elicited requirements from stakeholders. I facilitated workshop and meetings. I documented BRD, FRD, user stories. So, with every sentence I'm talking about I, you have to emphasize I, because that shows to the interviewer that, this is what this person has done. Instead of we, if I keep on saying we, then I'm just talking about the whole team. So emphasize on I document, I facilitated, I analyzed. I collaborated with cross-functional teams for the requirement which needs to be done by two teams. I validated requirement with the stakeholders. I document in the user stories. I got a formal sign-off from them. I defined process flow, use cases, and any other diagrams. I improved system efficiency and workflows. I led UAT sessions. I identified the gaps and risk. So, see what are the difference between before and after example. If I say worked on gathering requirements, that's kind of not the right approach. I should say elicited requirement from stakeholders. Elicited and document business requirement from 10 plus stakeholders, improving clarity by 30%. So all the tip over here is always try to combine action verb, what, impact, and always emphasize on I. What are the key BA words? Recruiters and ATS systems scan for specific business analyst keyword. Missing these is like missing opportunity. ATS system is where basically you apply for your jobs. If you go on to Amazon.com or Facebook.com, when you're applying to their portal, the ATS system behind in the scenes analyze the keywords used in your resume. So core BA keywords are requirement gathering, stakeholders management, business process modeling, gap analysis, use cases, user story. Make sure you use all these keywords in your resume. Function and non-function requirements, UAT, user acceptance testing, Agile, Scrum, and Waterfall, backlog grooming, sprint planning, sprint refinement. Tools and technical keywords will be Jira, Confluence, SQL, Excel, Power BI, Tableau. According to me, a business analyst resume should have all those words. Even if you know a little bit of SQL, little bit of Power BI, still is okay to use in your resume that you have a basic knowledge of those. Visio, Lucidchart, Azure DevOps, domain keywords, optional but powerful. So make sure you include those and you have a basic knowledge of those. Healthcare, banking, insurance, retail, etc. If you have worked on all of them, please include all of them. If you have worked on one or two, then include those. So the tip is mirror keywords from job description. So when you are creating your resume or you are tweaking your resume, I won't say creating, but tweaking, for every job you apply, you have to tweak your resume per the job description. So pay very close attention to the job description and make sure those job description like words or keywords should be in your resume as well. So now how you will showcase your project, especially for the beginners, okay? Project structure must follow this. Project name, objective, what problems were you solving, your role, what did you do as a BA, what are the tools you use, what were the outcomes of that project. Example, project online food ordering system. Objective was improve user ordering experience and reduce cart abandonment. Role was a business analyst. Responsibilities were elicited requirement through mock stakeholder interview, gathering requirements, created user stories, and created acceptance criteria under user stories. Designed process flow diagrams using Lucidchart if there was a requirement in the user story. Manage backlog using Jira or Azure DevOps. Conducting mock UAT testing. The outcome was improved checkout flow efficiency by 25%. So if you have no experience, okay, you can still create a dummy project, very common and accepted. Use real world scenarios like banking app improvement or e-commerce website, healthcare appointment system. So you can create your own. I will going to talk about those in next few slides. All right, everyone, now we are moving from theory to practical. On the screen, you will see our final mini project. I have chosen a topic that is incredibly common in the industry, an online appointment booking system. Whether it's for a doctor, hair salon, or consultant, everyone needs, online booking appointment system for their members or customers. To complete this project, I want you to focus on these 6 key deliverables. This is exactly what you would like to do in a real world project. So the deliverables are BRD summary. Write a high level summary of what the business actually needs. Then process flow, map out as is how it's done now, maybe manually, and to be how the new system will work. Write down 5 user stories. Create 5 user stories as a user. I want a statement. Then work on acceptance criteria for those stories. How do we know they are officially done? After that one, work on simple wireframe. Sketch out a basic layout, nothing fancy, just the structure. And the last, requirement checklist, a final list to ensure we haven't missed a single detail. Now, here is the most important part of this video. I want you to pause right now. Don't just watch me do it. To really learn, you will need to get your hands dirty. Spend the next 20 to 30 minutes drafting these 6 items. Use a notebook, a Google Doc, or just a Lucidchart. Go ahead, pause this video now. Are you back? I hope you actually took the time to try it. In the next few slides, I'm going to walk you through my version of this project. We will compare your notes with mine so you can see where you nailed it and where you might have missed a requirement. Let's dive into the BRD summary first. So let's see how I will going to approach this project. I will think like a real business analyst. I will keep it simple. I will not overcomplicate this. I will treat this as my first portfolio project, or I want you to treat this one as your first portfolio project. Focus on clarity, not perfection. Once you complete this project, you are no longer just learning BA, you are practicing like one. The final project, as we talk about, project topic is online appointment booking system. A business, clinic, salon, consultant wants a system where a customer can book, reschedule, or cancel appointment online instead of calling or visiting. Your role, act as a business analyst and create the key deliverables. So let's see how you outline all these things, the 6 deliverables, and how I would like to do it. So deliverables, what you need to create. BRD, business requirement document summary. Include one-page summary with business objective, reduce manual booking, improve customer experience. Stakeholder will be customers, admin, service providers. The scope of this project will be booking, cancellation, rescheduling, and the notification via SMS or email. Assumption and constraint will be example, user must have internet access. How the process flow will going to work as is to be. In the as is current state, customer calls business, staff checks availability manually, booking recorded in notebook or Excel. To be in the future state, I want customer to log into the system, view available slots, book appointment instantly, receives confirmation email and SMS. Another thing in the to be future state will be when a customer logs in, we are also gathering their details as well, their name, their phone number, their email, their birthday. So these kind of details help us to make an interaction with our customers. Maybe the customer birthday is coming up, so he would feel really nice if we as a company or an organization sends an email to them saying, "Hey, happy birthday." You can draw this using simple tools like PowerPoint, Draw.io. Now let's talk about the user stories. So use this format. I hope you have used this one. As a user, I want features so that the benefit. The example will be as a customer, I want to book an appointment so that I can avoid waiting. As a admin, I want to view all bookings so that I can manage schedules. As a user, I want to cancel appointments so that I have a flexibility to cancel or change as needed. The acceptance criteria will be define clear conditions for each user story. For example, booking appointment, user can select date and time, system shows only available slots, booking confirmation is displayed, confirmation email or SMS is sent to the customer. Use simple bullet points, no need to make it complex format, okay? Simple wireframe, basic UI sketch, create a rough design, no design skills are needed, just create how exactly the UI will look like. Include screenshots or screens like login sign up page, appointment booking page, my booking page where you can manage your booking, tools like you can use paper sketch, PowerPoint, Figma. Let's see how the requirement checklist will going to work. Make a simple checklist like fundamental requirement, booking, cancel, reschedule, non-functional requirement, performance and usability, user roles defined, error handling included, notification included or not. So at the end, I want to summarize what you must have learned by now by watching this video and my previous videos. What you have learned till now. Over the past 7 days, you have built a solid foundation in business analyst after watching my BA training day 1 to day 7. Day 1, we talk about basics every beginner must know. Day 2, requirement engineering fundamentals. Day 3, business process modeling and analysis. Day 4, tools, techniques, and process models. Day 5, Agile, Scrum, and user stories explained for beginners. Day 6, BA tools, Jira, Confluence, SQL, Wireframing, AI. And Day 7, interview prep and real world scenarios. What you can do now you are ready to speak confidently about BA concepts, understand and explain real world project workflows, write basic requirements and user stories, prepare for BA interviews with structured answers. Also, for BA interviews, I have another series on my YouTube channel. Please go. I have interviewed uh, industry professionals who has provided their inputs, how they will going to answer interview questions. So your next steps are rewatch this training series to strengthen your understanding. Rewatch couple of times. One time you will not be enough. Each time you revisit, you will catch new insight you have missed before. Take notes, try to apply concepts after every rewatch. Focus on mastering one concept at a time. Pause, reflect, and connect topics across all 7 days. Now, let's talk about the career tips. What career tips you should be aware of as an aspiring business analyst? Start smart, not perfect. Don't wait to know everything. Start applying early. Learn by watching videos. Focus on practical understanding over theory. Build a strong portfolio. Create one or two real world project examples, like the final project I talk about in day 7. Showcase business requirement document, user stories, wireframes, process flow. This matters more than just certifications. Master core BA skills like requirement gathering, documentation, communications, and stakeholder management. Analytical thinking and problem solving are the must for any business analyst. Prepare for interviews early. Practice common BA questions regularly. As I said, I have so many videos on my YouTube channel. Please go watch multiple times. Have a real example scenarios ready, as I have discussed in my videos. Do mock interviews with peers or mentors. Shoot me an invite. If you go on my channel, I have a Calendly invite. I can prepare you for mock up interviews. Learn relevant tools, agile tools, Jira, Confluence, basic for SQL, for data understanding, wireframing tools. Just know a little bit about Figma and others. Network and stay visible. Connect on LinkedIn. I have another video on my LinkedIn about how to have your perfect LinkedIn profile. Please go and watch it. Share your learning journeys. Engage with BA communities. Make connections. Connections really help. I personally has in the last 15 years got 4 or 5 jobs just through LinkedIn. Stay consistent, learn a little every day. Make it consistent. Watch the videos, make the learning habit. Come back every day, watch the videos again and again and again, unless you, at the end of this video, you says, yes, I'm confident with this concept now. Revisit concepts regularly. Growth comes from consistency, not intensity. One day you spend 4 hours, another 7 days you don't spend anything. It will be really hard to pick up again. My closing line will be, your BA career doesn't start when you get a job, it starts when you start practicing. The bonus tip here will be use numbers when possible. So when you're answering the interview questions, always use a number. Tell them the examples you have used or you have done when you're talking about agile. Talk about agile, also give the examples as well. Keep your resume 1 to 2 page maximum as a new. Tailor resume for each job description or application. Highlight agile experience, very important in 2026 job market. Final message from my side, your next step for your BA career is to move forward in your BA journey. Practice daily, mock up interviews, case studies, watch my YouTube videos, create a LinkedIn profile, make it effective by watching another YouTube video on my channel, build 1 to 2 sample projects, start mock up interviews, keep learning agile tools, Jira, SQL. Consistency beat perfection. Start small, stay consistent, and keep improving every day. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you. Thanks for being watching the 7 day journey. If you found this helpful, subscribe, follow, share with others, reach out for any questions.